Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on Filtration 101, Get Proactive with Your Preventative Maintenance. My name is Kyle Geib with the marketing team at Partstown, and I'm joined by our presenters, Cortney Scharenberg, a technical training manager at Everpure, and Bill Carr, food service sales manager at Duncan Supply. At Partstown, safety is our number one core value. So before we get started, we want to remind everyone on the line that if you have issues with your equipment performance or questions about any of the procedures discussed in this presentation, we strongly recommend that customers contact a factory authorized service agent who can help with their specific unit and all your commercial kitchen equipment needs. And now let's turn it over to Cortney.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cortney Scharenberg. I'm the technical training manager with Pentair. Some of you may know us as Everpure. I'll get into the brands in a minute, but I happen to be based in Chicago. I have a background in food service about 17 years now in some way, shape, or form, and have been with Pentair almost 8 years. I started as a sales rep in the Midwest and did some OEM sales before I became a trainer. So as far as the food service and commercial group goes, I'm the trainer. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or if you would like some individualized training after this. I'm happy to help you out there. So let's get started. And actually, we can introduce Bill real quick too. You may hear Bill Carr speak. Bill, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Bill Carr. I'm with Duncan Supply. We are the master distributor for Everpure in Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin. We serve Partstown and with Everpure and many other products as well. So I've been doing specifically water filtration and ice machines as my background for the last 10.5 years. So I'm a water nerd and an ice nerd, but I can help you guys out with any questions that you might have along the way. I work very close with Cortney and the Pentair team. I've known Cortney for many years. We've worked close together. David Norval is also a regional manager that we work close with that helps us with the Partstown relationship. So I'll be chiming in every once in a while to help Cortney keep things moving along, but I will let her take it over from here. So Cortney, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Bill. Okay, so I just want to say hi so you can see my face. I'm actually going to take it off the camera so I don't, look funny and get distracted by seeing my own face. So bear with me here. All right, let's get started. So you might be asking yourself, who is Pentair? So we'll go over that today, how water contaminants impact food service, where those contaminants come from, common water treatment options in some of those categories. Also, we'll go over generic versus OEM filtration. What's the difference there? Some things to look out for, and then we'll take time for questions. But if you do have questions as we go, feel free to type those in the Q&A box. All right, so who is Pentair? Pentair is actually a very large multi-billion-dollar water treatment company. We cover all different types of water treatment out there, from wastewater treatment and flood protection to aquaculture, aquatics, like the aquarium here in Chicago down the street from me, we have that, agriculture, you name it, we do it. We also have a residential group that makes components for softening and things of that nature. But what we're going over today is our food service and commercial water treatment solutions. And that's the category that I come from and that Bill covers, and Partstown as well. So the brands you see here on the screen are maybe the names that would be familiar to you under the Pentair brand. So the one that's been around the longest is the Everpure line. We have 85 plus years doing water treatment for food service and commercial products. The SureFlow brand, that's fluid movement for beverage primarily. Bag-in-box pumps and repressurization pumps, things like that. That's the SureFlow line. We recently acquired OptiPure. You may have seen that one out there before. We will be rebranding them to Pentair OptiPure. And then another company called Clearwater Technology. These are ozone products. So we do have a handful of ozone products out there that you can get your hands on, one specifically for ice machines that we'll touch on, but we have some others as well that unfortunately we don't have time to go over today. So if ozone is something you're interested in, please definitely let Partstown know and we can get you hooked up there. All right, so not exactly knowing where everybody on this call is coming from and what your backgrounds are, I wanted to sort of level set us. Everything that you're seeing on the screen right now are what we call applications in our water treatment world. Everything you see here, we have the capability of treating all of the water quality issues that may come up with these pieces of equipment. They all use water and they all use water very differently. So the issues that can arise may fall under some of the same categories, but the way we treat them is going to be different because of the way they use water. So hot equipment is going to be a little bit more sensitive to certain things, whereas cold equipment might be less sensitive to those. Or cold equipment might have special issues to different contaminants that the hot isn't going to be. Okay, but everything you see here we can treat in some way, shape, or form. Either at a point of use sort of solution where each individual piece of equipment can have their own water treatment product, or we have ways to put multiple pieces of equipment on one system just to kind of streamline a space issue or to give you one system that can be in the back of the house. We can also do what's called point of entry. So from where the water comes in into the business or the building, we can give you a kind of a soup to nuts solution, anything from water softening to filtration, reverse osmosis, and specialty products. We can put that all in a back room and let you know where you need to plumb that equipment. All right, so when you have remodels and new construction, that's really the way to go. A little bit more difficult with an existing building to rerun all your plumbing for your filtration. But that's what we do, and this is what we're going to talk about today. So how does water quality impact food service specifically? I mean, you saw those applications right there. Everything that you saw on the previous screen, the water quality is going to impact it in one of two ways. Either the equipment performance side of things or the product quality side of things. Product quality is somewhat self-explanatory, right? You know, any product that's coming off of that piece of equipment needs to look good, taste good, and smell good. You know, coffee needs to taste like coffee. And if you have a large brand, maybe that's a global coffee company, they're going to have some specific taste profiles they're going to want to try to meet all across the country because the water that's coming into that building is going to vary depending on where we are in the world. So that can be very important. Same with fountain beverage. You know, we want to have it not too syrupy. We want it carbonated, things like that. Equipment performance, on the other side, is going to fall under things like warranty protection. A very common theme that you will see here today is if we do not give proper water treatment solutions to any of those specific applications on the previous screen, there's a chance that the warranty will be voided. A lot of these pieces of equipment do have water specifications that they want you to meet. They may tell you, hey, buy this filter and we'll extend your warranty. But if they do not do that, they may just say, here, meet this water specification, and if not, you will be out of warranty. So a lot of the solutions we give you are to meet that warranty. So what falls under that too is if you don't treat the water properly, you're going to have unexpected service calls, increase in energy usage, increase in water consumption. You might have to have your equipment cleaned or serviced more regularly, even on a preventative scale. So when it comes to solutions that we're requiring in the food service world, they will meet one or both of these categories. Do we want ingredient quality water or do we want equipment protection, or both? So the applications that fall under product quality, and again, this is pretty self-explanatory. If you look at the applications here on the screen, those are all consumable goods, right? We want them to taste good, look good, smell good. Ice, we want it to be clear and hard. Fountain beverage, nice and carbonated. Coffee, you know, if it's an espresso, we want it to have a nice crema. And these are just a few real quick things that can happen, if we do not manage water quality properly. Something that people are not really super aware of under coffee and espresso, the water quality itself, whether that would be the chlorine disinfectant in the coffee, the mineral content, maybe you have too much calcium or not enough magnesium, all those things can actually impact the coffee taste profile and the experience that you have drinking that coffee product. It could either be too weak or too strong based on that. If you don't have enough minerals in your water, the coffee will not extract properly and it'll be weak. If you have too much, say, hardness minerals, then you would get too strong of a brew. That chlorine I mentioned can make the coffee acidic. Over extraction can make it bitter. Same with crema, as I mentioned on espresso. You can get earthy and moldy tastes of your water. If you don't take out things like what are called the organics in the water, you may have an algae sort of taste left over in the water. That is going to come out in your coffee. It will come out in your iced tea. It'll come out in your ice. It'll come out in your fountain. Another one that's common is fast melting, or what we call soft ice. There are certain minerals in the water that are going to potentially contribute to fast melting ice. One of them happens to be sodium. So if you have high sodium levels in your water, you will get fast melting ice. Ice cloudiness, disinfectant taste, metallic taste, those are common issues. Iced tea, I mentioned the earthy and moldy tastes. You could also have cloudy tea. That's actually a water quality problem. And also the same as coffee, weak or strong, bitter or acidic tastes. Fountain beverage, a flat soda. Flat is very common. You may have flat soda, so you call out your fountain company. They come out and turn up the carbonation. If you are experiencing flat soda with a high carbonation setting, you likely have something in your water quality that's causing that. Also, a very syrupy fountain beverage. Usually syrup is turned up to cover up the poor taste of the water. Fountain beverage is, 95% water, or somewhere between 87 and 95% water. So all of these are going to be affected greatly by the water quality. Now, these applications are the ones that fall under equipment protection. So all of these here that we just went over fall under the product quality side, but they also fall under equipment protection. All of these are made of stainless steel products or copper pieces and parts. All of those things are very affected by water quality. They can also get scale buildup or corrosion. But I've added steam and warewashing. So steamers, we don't need an ingredient quality water on a steamer. We just need it to not tear apart our piece of equipment. Same with warewashing. The detergents and things are going to wash the dishes. And they really have an impact on that water, but we can get scale buildup and clogging of rinse jets and things like that on warewashing equipment. So speaking of equipment protection, some of these photos might look familiar to some of you. On the left, we have corrosion. On the upper right, we have scale buildup. And on the lower right, we have slime buildup in an ice machine. And we'll dig into these a little bit more. So here's scale. This is just a few things you might see. We have a heating element here in the lower right, a combi oven steamer up in the upper right. Lower left, this is actually a copper scale inside of a coffee brewer. It's scale buildup. It's a mineral-based scale with copper actually attached to it. And then the upper left here is just a coffee boiler with scale buildup. So scale is nothing more than some of the minerals, what we call dissolved solids that are present in the water, precipitating out of the water in your piece of equipment. So certain minerals are actually going to contribute to that scale. The most common ones are calcium and magnesium, which is also known as hardness, water hardness. So the more calcium and magnesium you have in the water, the quicker this scale will build up. It does happen in cold equipment, but primarily in hot equipment. And it will happen faster the hotter you heat the water. So to solve these, you call your service agent out to descale it. And the good thing about scale is we can remove it and the integrity of the equipment is still intact. But the more we descale that piece of equipment, the more the metals are going to be eaten away by the descaling agent. Because a descaling agent is actually acid. We're pouring a weak acid onto this scale to eat that away, all right? The other downside with not treating for scale is what we're seeing here. And Bill's gonna go over this. These are a couple examples of some actual real world costs from descaling a combi oven or a steamer.
Yeah, the one you're looking at on the screen right here, I partnered with a local service agent in one of my territories to kind of give an idea of how much it actually costs. Now, this is a rationale combi oven. We'll talk about how much all those cost here in a little bit. But as you can see on the screen, the amount of man hours needed to do this is really high. And labor alone is $1,068 of this invoice to descale a combi oven. Now, these are anywhere from $25,000 to $75,000 pieces of equipment. And this combi oven itself was less than 1 year old. Someone opted not to put a filter system on it. And they are already paying $2,100 for descaling this combi oven. You could purchase a reverse osmosis system, which is a type of filtration we'll probably talk about here in a little bit, that actually takes all the minerals out of the water and puts pure water back to this basically Cadillac sitting in a kitchen that will put pure water, an RO system will put pure water back to it, so you're not having to worry about scale. It is all taken out and being flushed down the drain with a reverse osmosis system. So this is a combi oven. This is one of the more expensive pieces of equipment that could easily have paid for itself in one descaling. And they're having to dump a bunch of acid on the inside of your brand new shiny Cadillac in the kitchen to help clean that up. This next slide here, this is a little cheaper piece of equipment, which would be a steamer. This particular steamer here, steamers can be anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000. This also was a 1 year old steamer. Someone opted to go cheap. We'll buy our steamer, but we're not going to pay extra for the water filtration. So the service agent that I worked with in another territory sent me this one. And this is $2,600 to descale a 1 year old steamer. These are two examples. I mean, $2,600, you're halfway to the cost of a new piece of equipment. And if you're not protecting your investments with water filtration, one, you're going to get expensive bills, and two, it won't be covered under warranty. So, Courtney, if you want to go to the next one, I believe it's on the different. Yeah. Well, this is corrosion. Yeah, you can go on. Go on to the next one.
Actually, I think the slide's a little later. I don't think it adjusted itself. Yeah. So Bill mentioned the cost of the steamers. Scale buildup is super common in the United States because we have, on average, very hard water. The hardness of the water throughout the country will vary greatly. In Indiana, where Bill is, the water is 23 grains of hardness, which is very high. But the average in the United States is 15. And 15 grains of hardness will cause scale buildup easily within 3 to 4 months that you would have to descale something like this. There are other parts of the country where it's going to come up in a month, closer to where Bill is at the 23. Wisconsin, easily over 30 grains per gallon of hardness. So these are things that you would want to make sure you treat ahead of time. And the nice thing about scale is when it comes to treating it, we have very cost-effective ways to reduce, if not prevent, all scale buildup. All right, so you don't have to go with a very expensive piece of equipment to get at least a reduction in the scale buildup that you will see. So the next one is corrosion. Unlike scale, corrosion is kind of the big bad problem when it comes to hot equipment, whether that's espresso, coffee equipment, or steam and combi ovens. These are expensive pieces of equipment. The problem with corrosion is it's rust. Once it starts, we've got to either stop it in its tracks at the very beginning, or we have to throw away that piece of equipment and start over. Because once it's there, it just gets worse and worse and worse, and things start falling apart real fast. As I mentioned earlier, the beauty of scale is we can descale that piece of equipment, and usually the inside of the equipment is pretty good. But over time, lots of descaling is going to lead to corrosion like this. However, there are certain minerals and contaminants dissolved in the water that can contribute to corrosion, and that's going to vary greatly throughout the country as well. Here around the Great Lakes in the Chicago area where I am, we don't really have a corrosion issue, but there are parts of the country like down near the south end of Texas. If anyone's ever been to Corpus Christi, Texas, this corrosion will happen as quickly as 1 month, where they're eating away steamers and having to throw them away. So we want to make sure that we put the proper water treatment on to prevent this. And to do that, we need to remove the minerals that cause this. If anyone on this call is interested in the chemistry, that happens to be something called chlorides. That is the primary corrosive mineral. Chlorides are dissolved salts, so like sodium chloride or potassium chloride. As I mentioned, corrosion must be prevented. Bill said these are expensive pieces of equipment. When we get into steam and combis, you know, you can have a steamer, you know, it's $2,000, but you can have a combi oven that runs up to $75,000. So that would be like buying a brand new Cadillac or a brand new BMW and then never changing the oil. You know, you're not going to do that. So you're definitely going to want to give it the proper protection. You know, when we do specify expensive water treatment for that steamer or that combi oven, there's a reason for it. And the reason is we're wanting to prevent most likely the corrosion in that case when we're giving you a recommendation of a reverse osmosis. So warranty, we mentioned that. Corrosive salts and corrosion are really why a lot of these expensive pieces of equipment, the espresso brewers or the combi ovens, have water specifications on their warranty. So these are examples here of 2 different brands where they give you a water specification. The one on the left is a very vague spec. They just say water hardness cannot exceed 3 grains per gallon of hardness. That's a very vague spec, but water does not exist naturally at those low levels of hardness in very many parts of the country. So this is a case where to prevent corrosion or prevent scale buildup, they're asking you to make sure you meet that water spec. Same here on the right. And again, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to go over what a lot of this is, but this is a very complicated spec where this combi oven company says, hey, meet this. And if you do not put this proper piece of equipment or water treatment equipment on here to meet this, you will be out of warranty. And then they won't give you a new oven if it falls apart. All right, so the third issue that falls under the equipment protection is ice machine slime. So this is gross, right? These are the things that nobody wants a little blob of this in their scotch at the end of the night, okay, when they're out at the bar. But what this is bacteria and yeasts and things that actually come from the air. These are airborne yeasts that get into the perfect environment to grow an ice machine, right? It's dark, it's damp, and it's cold, all right? So they latch on there and they just grow like crazy. Ultimately, this requires a regular cleaning service to come out, make sure this stuff doesn't happen. From a water quality perspective, there's only a couple things that might be in your water that would contribute to this. Things like high iron. Iron is actually a food for airborne bacteria and yeast, so they love it. If we don't remove the iron from the water, it can contribute to this, but you'd also end up really getting bad tasting ice if you had high iron. So there are things that we can do to prevent this, but from a water quality perspective, it really more falls on what's coming from the air. So if you have, again, a lot of yeasty things in your air, like you're baking bread, or you have a lot of beer around, it's going to contribute to this. You know, also I see some places where they might have an ice machine on the back dock where trucks are unloading and the trucks are putting out diesel fumes. that's a situation where you're going to have very high levels of slime buildup. Okay, so we definitely recommend cleaning those regularly to prevent this, but there is a health problem that can come from the slime in the ice machines. And one of the big ones is an HVAC standard called ASHRAE 188. So if we have any maintenance people or facilities people on the call, you're probably very familiar with ASHRAE. For anyone else, what it is the standard that says you must prevent the transmission of Legionella bacteria through an HVAC system. And to do that, you need to use certain chemicals in your condensing units and things like that. And that's because Legionella bacteria, which leads to Legionnaire's disease, is a bacteria that grows in these condensing units of an HVAC system that then is aspirated through the system. So they're little water droplets that get blown through the HVAC system. And then we humans, we breathe that in. And if you breathe in Legionella bacteria, you get a respiratory pneumonia called Legionnaire's disease. And it can be very deadly. 1 out of 10 people that get it will die. But in healthcare situations, nursing homes and hospitals, it actually jumps up to 1 out of 4 people who contract it will die. So in healthcare, and as I say here, facilities housing patients for longer than 24 hours, there's actually a requirement that these buildings need to do something to reduce the growth of Legionella. What does fall into that category that we are concerned about in our food service world are ice machines. So that bacteria growth and yeast growth you saw on those slimy slides, that actually can potentially house Legionella bacteria. So ASHRAE says you must provide water treatment to your ice machines to reduce the growth of this Legionella to be in compliance with ASHRAE 188. Okay, so hopefully that didn't confuse you, but we do have some solutions to do that. Specifically here, we have a special filter that you see. This is actually called our 4SI filter. This is a filter that removes sediment. It removes what are called microbiologicals. And again, unfortunately, I don't have time to go over a lot of this stuff, but what it does not have is carbon in it. Carbon is the primary way that we remove disinfectants from water. So that's what we know as chlorine that comes from our municipality, or another product called chloramine. The idea behind this filter is that if you do not remove the disinfectant that your city puts in the water, some of that disinfectant will be left over and it will go into that ice machine to help kill any of that mold growth or the bacteria or yeast growth in there, okay? So that having this filter in a healthcare environment will help you be in compliance with ASHRAE, all right? Another option that's available is a small ozone generator. This is what we call our oxidize. So what happens is this little generator, it creates ozone in the water of your ice machine and in the air of the ice machine. So it does what's called oxidation, and oxidation will kill any of the bacteria or yeasts that happen to get into that machine. So that'll help. We also have ultrafiltration. This is a very, very fine membrane technology that filters down to very, very, very small, dissolved particulate in the water. It goes down to what's called 0.01 microns. Microns are how we measure the pore size in a filter. So that's actually very, very small. That does help remove and reduce any bacteria that might be in the water supply. Okay, so where do these problems come from that I just mentioned? I did drop a few terms on some of these contaminants, but I just want you to see the different categories of contaminants. So in the water treatment world that I reside in, anything that is in the water that is not pure H2O molecularly is considered a contaminant. So water may be safe for you to drink, right? Because the municipality put in all the disinfectant, chlorine. They were testing it for heavy metals and all the things that might make us sick. That might taste good to you, it might keep you safe, be nice and healthy when you drink that water, but it might not make good coffee, or it might cause scale buildup in an ice machine. It might cause corrosion in a combi oven. It might eat away at our espresso brewers or cause cloudy tea. So everything is considered a contaminant to us. And then these contaminants are broken down into different categories. These three here in the middle, the particulate, the organic, and the microbiological, those are problems that actually can be reduced and removed by basic carbon filtration, okay? Particulate is dirt, large chunks of things. Organic is going to be anything that contributes to taste, odor, and color in the water. So rotting vegetation, rotting leaves, rotting fish, chlorine, that disinfectant the municipality puts in there, those are all removed with carbon filtration. Microbiologicals, you know, that is some of the bacteria, parasites actually, which are called cysts. We have certain filters that are certified to remove those parasites or those cysts. That's where you will see a filter down to what's called a 1/2 micron. You'll see 5 micron carbon filters and 1/2 micron typically. The 1/2 microns are the ones that are removing those potential parasites in the water. This ionic up here, ionic are the minerals, right? The calcium and magnesium, that hardness I talked about. Sodium, iron, chlorides, those dissolved salts, other things like nitrates, sulfates, manganese, all of the stuff that might be in the water that's going to be different everywhere in the world. You know, whatever your rock and your land in that area is made up of is what's going to end up in the water. Those are dissolved, okay? So the minerals become dissolved in the water. Everything that falls under that ionic contaminant category is what's going to contribute to your scale buildup or your corrosion or both, okay? So when we get into ionic problems, that's when we usually bring in specialty filtration, all right? Then down here at the bottom is also gases. An example of a gas would be a hydrogen sulfide gas, which is the rotten egg smell you might get in your water supply, or if you've ever had well water. That is actually not sulfur the way people think it is. What that is that's the presence of a bacteria in the water supply that feeds off of high levels of iron or even manganese in the water supply. Then that bacteria creates a gas from it as a byproduct, which smells like rotten eggs, which is hydrogen sulfide gas. All right. But all of these things we do need to remove differently. And depending on what the water quality is going into whatever type of application or, you know, piece of equipment we're trying to do, that's where we put the two together and we choose the proper solution. But in general, you know, we have what's called base filtration, which are really carbon filters or sediment filters that are just there to remove dirt, or a combination of dirt and carbon removal. That we call base filtration. As far as contaminant categories that those remove, usually that's the organics, all right, the particulate and the microbiologicals. So when you have carbon filtration, it's taken that stuff out only. Then we have special water treatment, which would be water softening, which is called ion exchange, or different types of ion exchange products. Reverse osmosis is a big one out there. Deionization or ozone products. So in situations where we have corrosion, for instance, which are high levels of chlorides, reverse osmosis is actually needed to remove those chlorides to prevent corrosion in your steam and combi ovens and also espresso machines. So when we recommend a reverse osmosis to you, it's because we're trying to prevent corrosion specifically, or to get you a nice taste profile for coffee if there's a lot of things that are going to impact that. So as far as categories go, those specialty products are there to remove the ionic contaminants or those dissolved gases. So we are here to help you choose those right solutions. Parchtown is your first line of defense, so always contact them, and then they will get us involved to help you get the right product. Whether we have to come out and test your water or something along those lines, we will do that. So just some pictures, some examples of the things that fall under these categories. On the left, we have our base filtration, which is typical carbon filtration. It comes in different forms. You know, we have whole systems versus individual filters. The little white one there, that's just a regular dirt removal filter or a sediment pre-filter. Then there's some pictures of some specialty filtration on the right. I'm sorry. We have a reverse osmosis at the upper right, and at the bottom are different types of ion exchange. The one on the left is a specific or a very basic water softener that removes hardness. And then the one next to it, to the right of that, is a specialty ion exchange product that uses hydrogen as an exchange. You may see that out there or have that at your location. So what to look out for? You know, I know that the OEM versus generic, you know, categories and concerns out there are big in our world of food service. It's just as big in water treatment as it would be with parts, okay? The difference with Pentair is all of our products go through third-party testing. They all hold NSF certifications. So when we come out with a new product or a product is up for review after a handful of years, it goes off to NSF and they test it for the things that we want the filter to do. Whether we want it to remove chlorine, taste, and odor, we want it to remove cysts or whatever it might be, they test to those and then they certify the product that it does those things, all right? Now, what's unique about that is with our filters, when you put them into one of our manifolds, so you end up with an entire Everpure system or OptiPure system, if you put someone else's filter into our manifold, it actually voids the NSF certification. It also voids the warranty. So if you do that, and let's say you get a leak or something like that, and you call us up and say, hey, you know, your system's leaking and I see that you have somebody else's filter in our head, we won't replace that for you. Also, what NSF becomes important is if there is a breakthrough of a bacteria or a parasite outbreak in your area, you know, that a very toxic situation, if there's someone else's filter in our head, again, NSF becomes void, and the liability of the breakthrough of that contaminant to the business, therefore to your consumers, is not going to be backed by us as a company. That will fall on the end user itself. So there are situations where that can be a big time problem. There is historically issues with Cryptosporidium outbreak, which is a type of parasite. Cryptosporidium in Milwaukee in the 90s broke through systems and killed a lot of people. So this would be a situation where you'd want to make sure you have the right filter in the right head to prevent the transmission of that Cryptosporidium out to your customers. So why Pentair in general? You know, I mentioned all the NSF, but we are also a full spectrum, full service water treatment company. Water is all we do. We specialize in it. You know, as I mentioned, we've got a whole company that does anything from pool filtration to aquaponics and agriculture and fluid movement for wastewater treatment. Okay, we do all of that. But then my group specializes in only filtration for food service and commercial. Okay, so all of that, all those piece of equipment, all of those applications, we know them inside and out. We know the manufacturers and we know what they're looking for, and we can give you solutions specifically towards that. We also do what's called total water management. You know, we do anything from water testing and analysis to site surveys. And then from that water testing to that site survey, we will give you a right-sized product solution. You know, a lot of the trends out there are to say, you know, hey, buy this one filter and it'll do everything that you do or everything that you need. We're very aware at Pentair that there is really no such thing as a one-size-fits-all solution. If there was, I promise you none of us would want to pay for it. Okay, that would be very expensive. So what we try to do in all situations is give you exactly what you need, not too much and not too little. all right? There's no point in getting a 50,000 gallon capacity filter on a coffee brewer that uses, 15 gallons of water per month or per year, okay? That's not a right sizing. So we do water testing, water analysis, site survey, product solution choices, and then we can actually do an installation and startup. We have authorized service providers, people that have been trained by us to make sure the installation goes properly. And then we actually have planned maintenance. So if you want to continue on regularly scheduled service for filter changes and things like that, we have the ability to do so. We also have very strong distribution network partners like Partstown that can support you in the field, get you your product quickly. Okay. So, when it comes to preventative maintenance, it's very common that people ask, how often am I supposed to change my filters? Well, in general, the rule of thumb is every 6 months. So everything that you're going to get right sized from Pentair or even from our competitors is usually sized for a 6-month change out. The reason for that is if you're not changing filters or you're waiting too long to change them, those filters themselves can actually become little cesspools of bacteria growth. All right, so when it comes to starting up, if you've got a location and you're just opening because of we're post-pandemic situation or we're reopening, you're definitely going to want to change out those filters to prevent any breakthrough bacteria or mold growth that may have happened inside of that filter from getting into your equipment. All right, so the same thing can happen if you're not shut down for a period of time, just using the product for a while. Carbon has a life capacity. So we size filters to be able to hold so much contaminant or so much, say, chlorine or so many organics, those things that are going to cause earthy and moldy tastes. So once that carbon is filled up, it can no longer do what it's supposed to do. So those are sized for that roughly 6-month change out. There are situations where you might get sized for an annual change out, but it's important with filtration to be proactive and to do it on a regularly scheduled program to prevent those kinds of things. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of filters do not clog, all right? Now, there are situations where filters can clog, and that it would be a red flag situation. If you have a filter on your piece of equipment, whether it's ours or someone else's, if that filter is actually clogging up in less than 6 months, it's either not sized properly or you have some type of contaminant that is clogging that filter. Maybe you have a lot of dirt, might be construction in the area, something that's clogging that filter before it should be. All right, that's a red flag, something you can look out for. Other red flags we mentioned, the scale buildup. If you have filtration on your equipment and you're still getting scale buildup on your hot or cold equipment, that is a situation where you would want to give Partstown a call and say, hey, I might not have the right solution here. Same with corrosion, 100% corrosion. If you have rust, especially in your hot equipment, that is 100% sign that you do not have proper water treatment. All right, so we want to stop it before you're going to have to get in a replacement situation. Slime buildup, same thing there. If you have slime and you have a service company coming out less than twice a year, give us a call because we can lower that service level at least. You may still have to have service agent come out and clean the machine, but we don't want them doing that monthly. That's an added cost that you do not need to get yourself into. Okay, we can reduce that slime buildup so you're not in that situation. A few other things to notice, if you do have filtration systems and you have an extreme pressure drop across the system, some filters have 2 pressure gauges, one that shows incoming pressure, one that shows outgoing pressure. If your pressure gauge is in the red, those are situations where your system is almost clogging or completely clogged. That's where you would want to change your filters out. taste profile issues are an indication that we have a problem. You know, if your fountain beverage doesn't taste right, or you have a flat soda, cloudy ice, soft melting ice, your coffee's too bitter, too acidic, your tea is cloudy, your drinking water tastes like skunks, definitely call us. That's another red flag. Another thing too, we see often are if rubber parts in your equipment, so door gaskets, O-rings, seals, if those are starting to degrade, they crack, they get dry, they liquefy, that's an indication that you are having water quality problems with improper treatment as well. So what that happens to be is a type of disinfectant that's used by the municipalities called chloramine. So the ammonia will actually eat away at rubber parts. All right. So look out for those things, and if you have them, give us a call. So with that said, that was the end. So please, if you have questions, comments, concerns, or as Grumpy Cat says, complaints, please feel free to ask, and we'll get started on Q&A. I'll put my camera back up so you can see my shining face.
All right, well, thank you, Courtney and Bill, for sharing your expertise with all of us. And for everyone joining today, more information on Everpure will be heading your way in our post-event email, which includes the webinar replay, more filtration tips, and best practices. Partstown is proud to be an authorized distributor for Everpure, so be sure to visit partstown.com for your filtration and parts needs. Give a second here in case there are any questions coming through.
Sure.
All right, and it looks like you were just that thorough, Courtney and Bill. So wanted to thank you all again for attending today's webinar. Make sure to complete the short survey heading your way to let us know what you think. Your feedback will help to inform us of the topics, format, and timing that best meets your needs for the future. This webinar is one. Oh, go ahead, Courtney.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, if you have any thing you want expounded on from a water chemistry perspective, like, hey, I've got this weird situation, this weird scale, what is it? Definitely reach out, take a picture of what you're dealing with and what the type of piece of equipment is, make and model, and let Partstown know, and they'll let Bill and myself know as well. We can solve that for you.
Awesome, thank you for that extra information. Appreciate that. So yeah, before we leave today, just wanted to mention that this webinar is one of several we are hosting as part of our summer webinar festival series. And we hope you'll join us next on July 28th for a webinar featuring our partners at Randell, and throughout the rest of the summer for great preventative maintenance and equipment troubleshooting content, straight from several of our manufacturer partners and industry experts. Thanks also to our partners at Everpure for your time and valuable information today. Everyone, have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending today's webinar. This concludes today's presentation. You may now disconnect your line. Have a nice day.